Today we're assembling the last cabinet. We've already assembled 5 of the 6 pieces. We saved this one for you guys. So I'm going to take you through and show you basically how we're dressing up this cabinet box. This is just a 3/4 inch plywood cabinet box, and you'll see when we put on the face frame, the side panels, the door, you know, how this really blank canvas comes to life. I guess I should say that you could see we already installed our hinge plates here. When you have the opportunity to do something like this, put these on before putting the face frame onto the cabinet. You know, you're avoiding sticking your head inside the cabinet, trying to, you know, screw behind you. So that's something I did here is I put all these hinge plates on before we actually put the face frames on. We have our cabinet box on top of our face frame now, making sure that we have the top of the cabinet facing up. So what I'm going to do to get these lined up is I'm going to find the center of the cabinet box. So I've got equal overhangs here. I'm going to take a couple clamps and actually clamp this down. Put this blanket down so that when we're clamping these together, you know, we're protecting the face of this face frame. And now's the time when I take off the gloves. Just want to make sure that we're nice and flush. So we're using 1¼ inch pocket screws here. These coarse thread pocket screws do work in hardwood. Typically we use a fine thread, but we don't keep 1¼ inch fine thread around. And I'm just going to work around the cabinet. We have pocket screws on all 4 sides. So I'll pop those in and we'll be ready to put on the side panels. Now we can unclamp the cabinet from the table. And the next step is to apply the side panels. So what we'll do is we'll stand this cabinet up on its head, just because it's nice and flat. And to attach these side panels, we're going to be screwing in from the inside of the cabinet into the side panels. So. Here's the bottom of our cabinet, and here's our casters. You can see that they're not going to make it to the ground. So we need to add some blocking here. The reason that this space is so much is because we have this really wide bottom rail, and I didn't want the bottom of the cabinet to be sunken way below that rail. So we want the bottom of the cabinet and the top of the bottom rail to be, you know, pretty close to one another, not like this. So. We have some pieces of 8/4 rift sawn Pennsylvania pine that was too nice to make it into another job, so it's making it into this hidden area here of this job. So when I put this blocking on, it'll put these 3/8 of an inch below the bottom of the cabinet, which we thought was a good amount. It leaves a nice reveal. You'll see when we show you the finished cabinets over here. A nice shadow line around the cabinets, but it's high enough that you know, it can make it over small obstacles like a rug or something like that. So we don't want the homeowner to move the cabinet and the face frame ends up digging into something and you know, flipping the cabinet over. So pop these on and I can show you how we set these nice and equal. Our blocks here are 1 5/8 and we have a 3/4 inch bottom. So I'm gonna be using 2 1/4 inch screws, which will, you know, that's about the maximum. You don't want to go much further than that because we're going to sink these just slightly below the face of the pine. My blocks are 3 3/4 wide, so I've got my my square here set to 1 7/8. I'll just strike a line. No one's ever going to see this, but you know, I figure I want to get nice even pressure down the middle. This is soft pine, so no pre-drilling necessary. Just run these in. You can see I lift it up a little bit. So the trick with that is just back your screw out and it'll suck down. 4 screws in each side. Here's another trick. Whoops. That didn't work.
Well, put it in on an angle like that?
It's a pinch screw. It's an apprentice mark there. Now it's time to set our casters. We want these to be as close to the edges as possible so that we have the most stability, but we don't want, you know, we don't want the caster to hit the side when we're trying to wheel this thing around, which we've done that with shop furniture before. We have a cart over there by the laser that it doesn't really move in any direction well. So what I did is I just made this little jig. So this is 1 3/4 by 1 3/4. And I'll use this in all 4 corners to set where the caster goes. So I'm gonna hold this flush to the back here and tight against the side panel. So I can just hold this here. I'll run in the 4 screws and work my way around. A little tip for doing something like this is I'm gonna run this screw in first and I'm gonna kind of angle it this way. That way I'm sucking this tight back to this jig. If I was to do this screw first, say, I might actually push this away from the jig. So I'm gonna like forcibly push it in here. So it's actually like, you see it pinned this jig up against the side. So now I don't even have to hold it. I can put in 1 more screw. I'm using 2-inch screws here. And I can take this out. And this is totally locked in. All right, our casters are all attached. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip the cabinet over, put it on the wheels, and hang the door, and that's the last step. Rob, you can give me a hand?
Yeah, sure. Nice.
Nice and smooth. Here's our door. So these haven't been, you know, assigned a top yet, so we can put this in here and see what looks good. I liked it the other way.
Me too. What do you say, John?
I like that arch of sapwood at the bottom like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't like sapwood, that's fine. We like a little inclusion of sapwood.
That's how nature intended it.
Yeah, this project has a lot of different variations of color in white oak. You can see a lot of it. You know, some of these more pink tones, browns, getting into the yellows and the creams. So now that I have this oriented the way that I like, my hinges are on this side, my hardware is going to be on this side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark this side for the hardware and drill for that. There's our hole for the hardware. So now we can drill for our 2 concealed hinges. This is the last door that I'm boring. I've done 5 prior, so I already have my stop set up. So I've got a stop here and a stop here. And we'll use the inserter on this. So, turn on clamping. Can put our hinge in here. So we've got our 2 hinges in. Before we clip this onto the cabinet, I'm going to pop on the knob. So I'll tighten this up with the drill. Pretty good fit right off of the hinge boring machine, but we have adjustment in our hinges here, so use a posi drive number 2. So we need to come up a little bit and over. Looks pretty good. Once we deliver these, we'll make any final adjustments. You know, we might be sitting on a out of level surface here. So there you have it. We'll give you a shot of the other 5 pieces that we built. But that's how we went from, you know, basically a blank cabinet box to a finished product. These will get some stone that the client will have templated in their home. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the build. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to leave them down in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one.
They'll be able to see finished photos on your Instagram at some point?
Yeah, so keep an eye out on Instagram. We'll post some pictures once we have these in place. And we'll be sure to ask the client to get some pictures to us once she has the stone installed. So check it out there and give us a follow.